supposed to be a spring sport. It's supposed to be played when the sun's out, and I think that there's less than 30% of the year that it's enjoyable weather. So if we can fight that percentage a little bit, and obviously that means leaving Memorial Day, which is somehow a sacred day for our sport. I don't know if it needs to be.
But I think you really have to look at that date. Are we willing to move it to a flag day, the second weekend in June, and really bump some things backwards?
Pushing back Memorial Day, I'm not sure how well that would be received. I think the older folks in our sport and the traditionalists say that Memorial Day is lacrosse championship.
I think that our sport, I'd love to see us stay on Memorial Day weekend for the championship weekend. I think our tie as a sport to honoring our military and the service of those men and women that either have given their lives or a lot of their time or limbs or health and well-being, and the families that sacrifice for that to happen. I think it's just a spectacular way for our sport to give back a little bit, and it's such a tradition. I'm getting old now, so I'm a traditionalist, I guess. I like having the championship. I liked being at the championship, being involved on championship weekend.
I'd like to see it the second week in June. That would be my thing, and start our tournament on Memorial Day with our first round games, and then go the next 2 weeks with our quarterfinals, and then our Final Four weekend that second weekend in June. Again, that would allow us to play through May, have our conference tournaments the week before Memorial Day. So you would have then, in a sense, almost 3-4 weekends worth of playoff lacrosse. At a time where the weather is beautiful and people can get out and really enjoy what these athletes bring. I don't think we're doing any justice to our athletes.
We should stop hanging our hat on a Memorial Day weekend as the end of the season. We should push it at least into mid-June, go a few more weeks later. There's already obviously a template for it with softball and baseball going through June. It's hurting the growth of the sport.
I think most coaches would agree they'd love to start later and push the season back, but I think it's pretty complicated to do that, just based on class schedules and obviously the academics, and then keeping players here after they graduate or after the academic year is done, and where they would stay and what they would do, finances, whatever it may be.
That's a budget question. Is my school going to be willing to keep my team on campus, house and feed them for an extra week or two to push the season in there? The answer to that may be yes, and so I think we should explore that.
I'm not sure that this is the environment for us to make our sport more expensive on all our campuses, and to say, hey, we're backing up 2 weeks into the summer, and doing that. There's some other costs. There's the cost of opportunities for kids in summer jobs and those kinds of things. There's the straight out cost of people being on their campus after school is done, and to be there. You might have a variety of issues that would arise from that.
To move it to a later weekend and to try and keep Division II and Division III involved, you're asking for a lot of expenses out of the Division II and Division III schools. And you're also asking a lot of time out of those student athletes. I'm not sure it's fair to ask them to stay another week away from their summer vacation or their summer jobs, hopefully. A lot of our student athletes are working during the summer to pay for their books or their tuition or room or board or whatever. So I think that's troubling in that sense. I think that we can find ways to keep it on that weekend and improve it.
I don't think the schools will go for another week back. Even though people would right away say, well, but what about baseball? How many teams go to Omaha every year? They've got to stay on campus. One of the things unique about lacrosse is we as Division I schools have incorporated the Division II and III into, in quotes, it's not, we don't own it, but in quotes, our Final Four or our championship weekend. If we move back, they're done. They will not be a part of that weekend.
I also think as an older guy, it's important to keep Division I, II, and III together as much as possible. It's how we got here. Things are changing for Division I. Division II and III are very accommodating. We want good things for that division, and we don't want to get in their way at all, but we do want to tag along.
Let's create our own weekend that doesn't have as many conflicts with the parades and the barbecues and such, and make it just about lacrosse and separate it out. And I think that would really help improve our attendance numbers, because it's been shocking how much our attendance has dropped in the last few years.
Hindsight being 2020, looking back to when the committee decided to go to Foxborough and take that big guarantee that was offered, which meant that you can't get a hot dog for $1 anymore, and you can't park for $5 anymore, and you can't get a ticket for the whole weekend for $49.95 like you used to. So all these things combined make it a little bit less of a spectacle.
I think there definitely is some concern that as Memorial Day weekend, and now with the more games being exposed on television, is it easier to maybe just on Memorial Day weekend go to the semifinals, get 2 great games in, and then stay home, not travel, watch a game on Monday?
Trying to get home from a game on Monday when I have to be at work on Tuesday morning, get my family home from someplace is tough.
I think when we all clamored for television and all the great TV stuff that ESPN does now has taken away from the crowd that shows up on Memorial Day weekend, because they do such a great job, and that's kind of doesn't make sense to me, but it's true.
In terms of the Final Four itself, I think they're looking at maybe maintaining the Final Four on Saturday, and then really trying to promote the Division II and Division III championships as well as the women's championships may be a great idea. And then maybe looking at pushing the championship back a week.
I would like to see us separate out the semifinal and final. I think if you wanted to go see great lacrosse that final weekend, make sure you're at the semifinal games. I think both the teams that play in the finals are at a little bit of a physical disadvantage, and having to play a game of that caliber after only 1 day of preparation. This is a contact sport, and so I think the quality of our final would be a lot better if it was a week later.
Maybe you could move the championship game to a week later, have that week to market the game, get the players prepared, get them rested, so that maybe you would execute and have a cleaner game on Saturday.
I think part of the exciting part of the Final Four for Division I is it's true who are you on Monday. There's not all that time the coaches have to put in different schemes to stop Berg and this guy, and they go fast, so we got to do this or whatever else it is. I think it's true athleticism. I think it's true athletes out there making lacrosse plays, and I think it's the greatest weekend we have in our sport. I really do. So
There's definitely a lot of analyzing going on as what's going to make the actual tournament the best possible tournament, and if it is to move it or spread it out a little bit away from Memorial Day weekend, I think the lacrosse committee would be all for it. I think almost all the programs would be all for it.